percentage of guys that you've got back in the building?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got what I would say is really good participation. Not everyone, but I would say very encouraging numbers that we have here. And I think the energy in the building has been outstanding the last day and a half here.
Coach, how beneficial are these off-season workouts, especially for last year's draft class?
Yeah, if you go back, kind of zoom out a little bit here, you got to remember these guys, the last 2 years in particular, didn't have an off season for the most part, or a normal off season, and so this is new to some of those guys in those particular draft classes, and they've come in on fire, ready to go, and so it's just good to get them in the building, get our whole team really in the building, and then allow those guys to get to know one another, build those bonds that are important for the chemistry part of our team.
This is a new offseason in one respect for Josh and members of the offense with a new offensive coordinator coming in. They're familiar with him, but how have you worked on that transition, not just over the past couple of days, but even in the weeks leading up to this, to the voluntary camps, and just your thoughts? How have you worked up towards that?
Yeah, I'll take it kind of one half at a time. So the staff part, I think Ken Dorsey's done a really good job of working through a progression, educating the coaches on what and how he wants the offense to look, what he wants to carry over from last season, and then with the players, by rule, we're not really able to get into the weeds with them in the off season until now. So. Now they're in the building. Now we can get into the playbook a little bit more, and I know Ken started with that yesterday.
Sean, is Jordan Poyer in attendance, and if not, have you been in communication with him?
Yeah, I've been in communication with Jordan. That's part of the NFL and how things work this time of year with some business that's going on, and I love Jordan. I love his family, and he's been a big part of what we've done here to this point, and the more people that come, the better it is. The more our team comes together, and so, we'll just leave it live where it is right now.
And given the off-season you've had so far with the free agent signings, a lot of people out there are saying this is the best roster in the NFL. When you hear that, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been around this NFL for 20 plus years, and I've never seen a team win just because of names on a paper, and that's not how a team comes together. I think when you have what you think is a roster that's able to compete, then it's all how it comes together. So again, projections, expectations this time of year, I've never known those to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, whether they're really low, like they were in 2017, and we go and make the playoffs to this season. So every team's got to put in the work. Every team's got to come together. And I think, we'll see how that goes. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I think there's a commitment level that comes with that also, and a focus level, and that's really what we're looking for.
Speaking of names on the paper, pretty much the same names in the secondary. Haven't added anybody there yet. How big of a need is it with the draft coming up and still some free agents out there to address the cornerback position here over the next month?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking to improve our team. In any way that we can, whether it's draft, free agency. So we'll just take it one step at a time. There's a lot of confidence, I know, from me and our staff on those corners in the DB room. And, Dane's played a lot of football, as well as some others in that room. So I know Tre'Davious is working hard, and we'll see where he is this season. So we'll just take it one day at a time.
Benchmarks for Trey, or do you have a timeline for Trey, or any benchmarks that
No, I mean, I think, listen, you got to be realistic, though, too. You got to know where, what to expect in the first season coming off of an injury like he had. And, again, we'll take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time. He's controlling everything that he can control. I mean, he's busting his tail. He's in here every day, one of the first in the building, one of the last to leave. And that's the piece that he can control. And but you also have to remain, like I said, realistic about what we can expect from Trey this first season, or any player coming off of an injury like that.
You said about Jordan, I just wanted to ask you, the fact that you've been doing this now 5+ years as a head coach and you have a relationship with him, does that make it easier to manage and understanding this is part of the NFL and keeping that line of communication that you've already built, as opposed to maybe if this was, 4 or 5 years ago when things were new for everybody?
Yeah, I think there's no substitute for experience, and I've been through this before now in the non-head coach seat and then also now in the head coach's seat here. So, I have a lot of confidence in Brandon, a lot of confidence in Jordan, and, also a lot of confidence in our team that is here. And I think these things are going to find a way to work themselves out. And, my concern is that a player isn't here, in this case Jordan, or a couple other players as well, and that, I'm always concerned about situations like that. But I've also learned to focus on what I can control as well, and that's what is in front of us today and started yesterday with the team that's here.
Coach, what's been like for you onboarding some new coaches? You haven't had to do that in a couple of years.
Yeah.
You had pretty much everybody returning last year.
Yeah, it's exciting. There's a lot of, like I mentioned, Sal, at the outset here, a lot of good energy in the building. It's a fresh feel, if you will, and it's exciting to onboard new players and onboard new coaches as well, that this is their first time going through it. So I had a chance to check in with those guys at the end of the day yesterday, and they were fired up about what they saw and excited for today and this morning. And so today is day 2, and we're taking it one day at a time.
Do you offer any golf tips for Josh for his big match?
I saw that, yeah. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, I didn't really participate in a golf match that there was a lot of trash talking in. I've already seen some of that out there. I don't think he'll struggle in that area, so we'll see how he does. Always pulling for him.
On a semi-serious note about that, he seems to have reached kind of a new level of celebrity this offseason with some of the things that he's participating in. Just how have you seen him handle that, and maybe what impact that's had on him, if any?
Yeah, I think, Jay, the way to describe it from my position is in stride. If this was his first off season or second off season, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But the way his plan unfolded through year 1, 2, 3, and now beyond, he's mature enough to handle it the right way and take it all in stride.
Hey, Sean, I'm sure you're knee deep.
With that deal getting done with Steph, I guess, what does it mean to have him in the building for the long term, knowing that he'll be here, and what impact have you seen him make that made that, make that exciting for you as a coach?
Yeah, well, I think you're seeing some premier wide receiver talent be recognized in the NFL, and Steph's one of those players, right? And he's done a great job for us. He and Josh have built a very strong relationship, and so that helps us going into the offseason where we know and Josh knows who he's going to have at that position, and a guy that he has a lot of trust in. So I think that's good for this season.
Now that you're 5 years in, and there's some turnover with the offensive staff, do you feel yourself getting a little bit more comfortable with integrating yourself into the offensive discussion about where you want things to go, especially now that you guys, not starting over, but with a new voice heading it in Ken Dorsey, you feel yourself integrating yourself more?
Yeah, I've always been integrated into offense, defense, and special teams, and yet at the same time tried to let people do their jobs, and I expect that to continue, really. Ken and I have a great relationship, and he's going to grow. I've been in the position that he's currently in terms of going into your first off-season now and then season as a play caller, and there's some newness to that. And like any job, there's no substitute for experience, and so I'll try and do my best to help him work through some of those things that can pop up as growing pains and challenges, but I'm extremely confident in Ken.
If you had a specific vision for what you want this offense to look like with Josh moving forward, what would that be?
Well, I'll just give you the whole playbook. Does that work for you? No, listen. We're gonna do what we feel like we need to do to win each week, and Ken will put his own signature on it, Joe, as you know, and with Josh at the helm, he and Ken both will put their collective minds together and come up with a good plan. And that's really what this spring is for, is to work some things out, try some things, to develop a good menu for training camp, and that's really where we build the rep count, is in training camp.
John, you've obviously got a really strong top 4 in the wide receiver room, but as you look at that group as a whole and your offense, do you think, if you had the opportunity, do you think you need to add that speedy home run guy to this offense to make it even more dynamic?
Yeah, there's no substitute for speed. I think we do have speed on the offense, and our team, but I don't think he ever turned speed down. And so we're always going to look to add good players, whether it's a speed player in this case or other types of good players, Sal, to our offense in this case, or our defense, or special teams. I think you've seen the value of speed and what it can do.
You got a long wait on Thursday night, so your pick comes up, but it's a good thing in one way because it means you're coming off a good season. But what are those moments like when guys are maybe coming off the board that you like as players, and what's your role as that draft is going on, and how do you approach that wait until your turn comes up?
Yeah, well, it's good that we have a lot of candy in the draft room and just outside, so I can satisfy my anxious hunger with just candy, just popping candy. So I'll be doing that through the first 20 picks, and then I'll be in the room and dialed in there with Brandon. But no, it's bittersweet, like you said, Jay. So you have a good season, and you got to wait the next year. So I'd rather have it that way. Ideally, you can have a good season, and then and Brandon will be up here, I think, at 2:00, so you could talk to him about getting a little bit earlier in that waiting would be great, and maybe 2 spots would be great. So we'll just see how it plays out. I mean, like I said before, a lot of confidence and trust in Brandon and his staff. They've worked extremely hard, and I know we'll come out with some good players.
So you're saying you're trading up? Is that what you're saying?
I prefer chocolate milkshakes. Would be great. Sorry, John.
So you're saying you're trading up is what's happening.
This is the.
No. But I was joking there, half joking. But given the fact that this is your first time back with this group, a lot of them who were part of the team last year, how, in your experience, do you address how last season ended, and is it any different than how previous seasons have ended with the frustration or disappointment of how things came to be?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I thought we had a heck of a season last year, and yet we remain in the hunt for a Super Bowl championship here in Buffalo. But I don't think you can ignore the success we did have last season. I think that's life when you go through some adversity, and you got to face it head on, and you got to learn from it. And we've been doing that, and we've researched, and we're going to continue to research. But at some point, you got to move forward, and we've turned the page, and it's now the 2022 season and this version of the Buffalo Bills.
So you don't sense any hangover or anything to that effect?
No.
Sean, so this is your 5th year with Brandon going into a draft. I know Joe is gone. You have a lot of the same people intact. Just how has that transformed to be so much of a smooth process for you guys knowing each other and working together? You don't see that a lot with teams that have the same head coach, general manager, a lot of the front office staff for 5 years running, going in a draft. How much easier has that made all of your lives, I guess, in this time of year?
Yeah, the continuity has been great. He knows what I expect. I know what he expects from my staff, because the two sides really try and come together this time of year more than any time of the calendar year. And it's the dialogue, it's the trust, it's being able to debate and sometimes walk away with the disagreement still intact and the trust still intact. So we're all in this for one reason, and that's to win and win it all. So with that in mind, with that one purpose in mind, we can all come together and work and hopefully put a good product out there in terms of what we get next week here.
Sean, I know the sample size is incredibly small, a day and a half, but Von Miller, when he signs here, talks about how he wants to be a leader and how he wants to make an impact on and off the field. We saw him on the field, with the team the last couple of days. What have your conversations been like with him, in his first day and a half here about kind of what his vision is for helping this team the way he said as a leader on and off the field?
Well, first, I think it's great that he's here, and he's here and he's participating, he's working hard, and then he's just he's trying to get himself, acquainted with his new teammates, the new surroundings, where the weight room is. I mean, it's kind of like the first day of school, right, for a guy who hasn't been in our building. Granted, he was here on his trip when he signed, but there was bigger things going on then, right? So now it's, hey, he's got the the uniform on, the day-to-day uniform, and he's figuring this facility out. He's going through meetings. He's trying to get acquainted with the defense. So much like the rest of his team, that's what he's doing, And I think that leadership piece will come out over time.
Coach, we all know that, critiquing yourself. What improvements are you looking forward out of this season out of yourself?
Well, I just think, when you go from year 5 to year 6, you're always looking to improve. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, experience is a big factor in that. When you go through things like we went through last season, and not just the end of the season, but different parts of the season, they're learning opportunities for anyone, let alone myself in this situation. So I'm wired that way. I take my job very seriously. I'm very passionate about it. I could go through the list. If you had an hour, we'll go through the list of everything that I feel like I can get better at. And at the end of the day, you're driven to be the best. That's why we're here, and that's why we spend the hours we do. So we turn over every rock to be the best I can be as a coach and serve our players and serve our community the way that I feel like it needs to be served.
When you mentioned earlier trying to build off of last season, you said researching. Is that more introspective or looking at like outside of the Bills?
Yeah, both. Again, you look at your own team, your own situation, yourself first. You look at the staff, you look at the team, look at our players, just how we can improve. And then you look at fundamentals, schematics, analytics, every way that we can improve and evolve. And I think that's key. When you've been at a spot for 5, now going on 6 years, that you're always evolving in what you do, whether it's on the field, off the field, whether it's coaches, training room, weight room. We're always trying to improve and evolve. And if not, the league passes you by. It's so competitive that way. So you're always trying to find that competitive advantage through the evolution of the game.
John, we've seen some of the videos you guys have put out around the draft when you guys are working in the war room. I'm curious, what's your role in the lead up to it? Like, how much work do you do on the draft class? And if so, your specialty, defensive backs, what do you think of this year's class, if you had something to say about it?
Yeah, I think every head coach is different. Every staff is different that way. I'm very involved. Obviously, Brandon's the point person. Our staff is very involved, probably as much as most coaching staffs in that process leading up to the draft. That said, that's Brandon's primary role and his staff. So we have to trust his staff that the information that they've gathered during the fall when we're coaching is accurate, which we do. And, I don't know what else to tell you other than at the end of the day, Brandon makes the call there. So, which I'm extremely comfortable with. And I think we have a good dialogue leading up to and including on draft day. And I trust, like I said before, him, and I trust the work that he puts in. And I think we have a good dynamic there.
There's a lot of people saying that this is a really deep safety class and the cornerbacks are really good. Do you have any overarching thoughts on the class in general?
I've watched quite a few of those players. I could say when you were asking specifically about my involvement and the time that I spend, it's significant, I would tell you. And the hardest part right now is the balance between now the team is in-house and balancing that with the amount of time that I spend getting ready for the draft. And I could tell you that, from my seat when the draft is done, you see the personnel guys, they're cheering, they're relaxing a little bit, and it's like, okay, it doesn't change my job. I'm going right back to work with my team, with our team here. So I think that's the different kind of side of being a coach versus being a scouter on the personnel side. But I love how we work together on it. So the class of DBs overall, I think there's some depth there. There's some players that you'd like to be able to put 2 players together to get 1 player in terms of the skill set. But to this point, I don't think anybody's been able to do that. But that would be nice. So yeah, but there'll be good players there at 25 or wherever we decide to pick. So.
When we talked to Ryan Bates a few weeks ago, he mentioned part of wanting to come back here was all his relationships, but with you specifically and coming from the same area. What's it been like building that relationship with him and now having him back here?
Yeah, great to watch a young man come here and be reminded he wasn't with us initially, so we got him up in the trade there. And as a rookie. I believe it was his rookie year, right? So, and then for Ryan and I to kind of grow up in the same area and play in the same league in high school is we have a lot of shared stories and experiences. I mean, that's one of the joys of coaching, when you can develop people on and off the field, or they can help develop themselves as well. And I think Ryan's done that. He's taken ownership of his own career, and you know, Ryan's not a guy to ever complain if he's not the one out there starting, but he just continues to work. And I think that says a lot about who he is, who we are. And, you know, last season in particular, when there was a lot of guys being given opportunities in there, Ryan never said a word. And then when he got his shot, he took advantage of it. And you love those stories.
Coach, I went to the Sabres game a couple weeks ago. Standing out by the glass, my wife looks over and sees you behind the bench. She noticed you, but obviously then the video board shows you and you're there. What was that like with Don Renato? Why did you do that? And what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, cool experience. It really was. I've never really been that close with a hockey team. And just to compare and contrast what's similar pregame to what's different, and then see what they're building, what Coach and Kevin and the Pagulas are building over there, like I said, reminds me a lot of our season in 2017. The foundation, you can tell, is being built, and there's a lot of positive energy over there. So yeah, it was great to be around them. I got a chance to meet a few of the players, meet the coaches, and I was very impressed. I came away very impressed with what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Some of the pictures with Josh afterwards, I was stunned how big some of those guys are. I did not realize some of those hockey players are as big as Josh.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the newness for me as well, just trying to size these guys up and get a feel. Some are really tall, like you said, and then some are, I guess, more my size, you know. But just incredible sport, how fast it is being on the bench, how big some of the guys are, and then how fast they skate. Is incredible skill set. So I can just tell you, I think there's bright days ahead for the Buffalo Sabres there. So.
Outside of hockey, do you have any downtime this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. At night, yeah, just like any coach. Yep. Good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.